hungry? Why you eating too much?
But the villagers learned well, and they became known.
Cedric is a professional eater. You see, it takes
15 or 16 centuries ago. The
practice.
shrine that rests.
What's up everyone, this is Cedric Skycedi and welcome back to another video. Now if you happen to be new to this channel, my name is Cedric and I am a man living in Korea, and this channel is about Korean culture and also me shining light on Korean culture and my experiences here. And so if you're new here, definitely consider subscribing. Now in this video, I just want to have a heart-to-heart with you guys and just share a couple of things as it relates to my father. Now in the few days in the United States, there's a holiday called Father's Day. With that just right around the corner, it just got me thinking about my father, and just I always seem to reflect on who he is and what he means to me, especially around this time. And so I just want to share some of those thoughts with you, and hopefully you can get some value out of this video. Now I do want to encourage you guys to stick around for the whole video, because I feel like that there is some value that you can get out of this, whether you're a father or you're going to be a father in the future, or you don't even want kids. I feel like this video will have some value for you, so definitely stick around to the end. Now a lot of you guys have already seen my story on how I grew up, and you guys met my family through some of my videos, and if you haven't, I'll definitely link one of my videos that you should check out right up here. But in that video, you guys were introduced to my father. I just want to talk a little bit about who my father is and some of the lessons that I learned from my dad. And also towards the end of the video, I want to offer some encouragements to all the fathers out there, or those that are thinking about being fathers, or really anyone who's in any sort of relationship. Now my father was an African-American man that was born in the mid-40s, and he grew up, went to school. He also joined the military, which would be what he would do for about the next 26 years. And in 1980, he met my mom, who just came from Korea to the States, and they hit it off, they started dating, and within a few years they were married and they had me. Now I was born in 1985 after my parents got married, and my mom would tell me stories of how my dad used to be so excited about his baby boy and would come home from work, and the first thing that he would want to do is come and play with his new son. And my dad was the type that wanted to be around his kid and wanted to just shower his kid with love. It was no different when my sister was born a few years later. So in my younger years, my father was just the type to go to work and he would come home and he would want to spend some time with his family. He always wanted to spend time with me, his son. I remember being in elementary school, and me and my dad would always go fishing. We would go to different places, whether it be a lake or a nearby dam, and we would just fish all day. And my dad had a love for fishing, but he wanted to share that with me, and we used to hang out when I was a little kid that way, and that was one of the ways that we would bond. So my dad was absolutely a family man, and everything that he did revolved around providing for his family and really just making sure his family was happy. So I have a lot of things that I remember about my dad, and these are all positive memories, and I realize how fortunate I am to have been able to grow up the way that I did. And as I got older, I realized that a lot of my friends and people that were around me, my peers, didn't really have the same type of relationships with their parents. So the older I got, the more I realized how fortunate and how blessed I was. I can't take any credit for that. All that credit goes to my dad and to my parents, because they were the ones to set up our lives the way that it was set up. So let me just share a couple of things about my dad. My dad was a very consistent man. He was always in many ways predictable. I mean, my dad was like a creature of habit. Every single day he would do the same thing. You know, he would wake up, he'd have his little morning ritual of reading the paper, then he would go to work, get there like 20 minutes early, and he would work, come home, and then he would have dinner with his family, and usually he would end the night off just watching TV, and he would just kind of repeat that. Whenever there were things to do with the family, he was there. One of the cool things about my dad was, as we were growing up, whatever interests that me and my sister had, whether it was like taekwondo or whether it was sports, my dad was very supportive and always there to push us to do what we wanted to do. And I always appreciated that about my dad. Not only did he support us by providing the opportunity for us to do those things, but whenever my dad could be there, he was there. Whenever there was a taekwondo meet or whenever there was a sports game or a football game, my dad would try his best to be there. And growing up, I mean, yeah, you know, as a kid, I thought that was just normal, in which, you know, in a sense it should be, but I realized how much of a presence my dad had in my life and how much he really sacrificed and wanted to just give his kids the good life and just be there for them. So my dad was just always there, always present. Another thing that I remember and I recall is during like high school, I had a car. He got me a car for my 16th birthday, and it wasn't a freebie. I had to work for it. In other words, I had to make sure my grades were on par and I met his expectations. But he bought me a car for my 16th birthday, and I can't tell you how many times I've had issues with that car, whether it was me getting stranded on the side of the road, or me finding myself in a ditch, or me rear-ending someone. But every single time I had something go wrong, my dad was a phone call away. I would call my dad and he would literally just rescue me. And yeah, he was a little disappointed sometimes, especially when things were my fault, but he never scolded me or he never made me feel super bad. He just always tried to make a lesson out of it and really just help me to learn and grow from that experience. So those are some of the things that I remember about my dad, just always being there. Now, he was also a very hard worker. Now, after my dad retired from the military, he ended up doing some other things career-wise, and one of the things that he got into was selling cars at a dealership, and he did that for many, many years. He saw the potential and the opportunity to really give his family even more than what he was able to give. And one of the things that he wanted to do was purchase a new home and a dream home. He would work day and night, working hard to provide for his family, until one day he was able to provide his family with that dream home. So my dad was an extremely hard worker. He was diligent in hustling and just grinding 5-6 days out of the week, and he really made it happen. You know, he made it happen for the family, and so I'm forever grateful for that. Now, a lot of you guys who watch my videos and you see my family, especially in recent times, I get a lot of comments asking, what happened to your dad? Why isn't your dad in your videos? And so some of you guys may know this, but for those that don't, in 2009, my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And it was out of the blue, it was out of nowhere. As far as we knew, my dad was healthy. As far as he knew, he was healthy. But one day, he just had this tremendous pain in his backside. And my dad was never the type to go to the hospital. He never really got sick from my recollection. But it was so severe, the pain, that he had to go to the hospital. And so he did. They actually had to keep him overnight and run some tests, and that's when we found out. So it was a little too late when they found it in my father, and so my dad ended up being with us for about 9 months after the diagnosis, and then we lost him. And one thing about that time, as emotional as it was for me and for my family, I think during that time is when I learned the most about my father. And as I would see his health day by day just decline, slowly initially, and then pretty much drastically towards the last few months, I learned something about my dad. It was that my dad was extremely mentally strong and extremely selfless. I remember when it got to a point where my dad couldn't walk anymore because he was so frail, and he's gotten down to the point where he's lost so much weight and he had no strength. I remember my dad would still try to go to work, okay? Get this, my dad, knowing that he had every right to stay home from work, he got out of bed and he got himself dressed. And I remember this particular morning where I helped him put on his shoes, and I was gonna help him to his car because he was at a point where at least he thought he could still drive. He was in so much pain, but he would refuse to complain about it. That was the point where we were like, okay, Daddy, you need to stay home. Like you just can't go to work. And I remember my dad was just so upset that day because he could not go to work, because he wanted to supply for his family, because he knew that his time was short and all he could think about was supplying for his family. So these were the moments where I realized the strength of my father, and that taught me a lot about him and also about how I should look at life and how I should tackle life as well. So at this point, my dad didn't really have any other option except to just stay home and to really try to manage the pain as much as possible. But again, he never complained about anything. With all of that said, I just want to offer a little bit of encouragement to some of you fathers out there or future fathers. But I want to encourage you, based off of what my father did, is to create memories. Work on creating memories with your loved ones, with your kids. My father was the guy who always took pictures, and he always had his big old camcorder hauled around, whether it was at a school activity or at a sports event or whatever. And my dad always wanted to capture moments and memories. And so I am forever grateful for that, because all of the footage and the pictures that we have are literally the most priceless things that are in my possession. And so those memories are snapshots of time that you can keep with you, and then you can pass it on. And I don't think there's really any greater gift than that. So work on creating memories. Another thought that I want to offer to encourage you is, as fathers, you have the ability to empower your kids. You have the ability to empower your family. What I mean by that is, what you do or what you say can have an impact on how your children grow up and the decisions that they might make in the future. What you do has so much power. One example of this is, I remember growing up throughout middle and high school and even in my adult years, there would be times periodically where I would sit with my dad on the porch, because he used to like to sit on the back porch, and I would join him sometimes, and we would just talk. Our conversations would last 2-3 hours, and it was a good time for me to catch up with my father, but it was also a time for me to just hear out his perspectives and his wisdom. And I remember always feeling empowered, like I could take over the world after talking to him, because he would teach me about how to respect people and how to look at people and not to judge people. And he would also say that, look, son, you can do whatever you want to do, just don't worry about what people think. I just remember just feeling so empowered after those conversations. So fathers, you have that power and that ability to really motivate your children. So I definitely encourage you to utilize that and to take advantage of that, because your children from a young age are moldable. And yes, at a certain point they're gonna make their own decisions, but as long as you can do your part and do the best that you can, then I think you give your children a greater chance of living a powerful life. And lastly, I want to encourage you to spend as much time with your kids as possible. Whether they're young or they're older, do what you can to spend as much time with them, because that is the one thing that you're never gonna get back, is time. You don't wanna look back and realize, I should have spent more time with my son, I should have spent more time with my daughter, I should have spent more time with my friends, my family, whatever the case is, because life is short, and as you all know, time goes by extremely fast. And so I want to encourage you to spend as much time with them as possible, because there's so much influence and empowerment that can take place with you as the parent, really living up to that role and showing your kids love and really motivating them and encouraging them. That's all I wanted to really share with you guys. In honor of Father's Day and just reflecting on my dad's legacy, I just wanted to talk about his story just a little bit more. All right guys, thank you so much for watching and listening to me share a little bit from my heart. Hopefully you guys found some value and some encouragement from that. And also, if you feel like this will help anyone else or encourage anyone else who is really in the trenches of fatherhood, or those that are looking forward to fatherhood in the future, share this video with them in hopes that it will encourage them. And again, if you're not subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button and smash that notification bell. That way you're notified of every video that I upload. All right, that is it. I'll see you guys in the next video. And remember to always seize the day. Peace.